So basically, this Excel that sir has shared for the classes, I had followed it to the T, because it's like, as I mentioned for CA also, that we have to discipline ourselves. So when as CA students especially, if we get something in our hand that is provided, we usually follow that, because it's like, it's a rare thing that we're getting. Why would you lose that? And April, May, June is like the most important deadline for us. Like I am in the assurance and audit sector, so there the statutory audits are there in that semester. So that was like the most pressure period, April, May, June. So I got cut off from studying for entire 2 months. GI shouldn't be neglected for the end, because I suffered in my mocks because I wasn't being able to complete.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely fine, and more so happy because of the score. Look at that gleaming 715, 99 percentile. We've got 100 percentile in quant, a 97 percentile in verbal, and an 84 percentile in data insights. Big congratulations on that incredible score.
Thank you so much.
You've also
Thank
shared that with Richa earlier, and even in the to the faculty group. It's just so we are grateful, and and we are supremely happy that one, you shared and you were so proud to be a part of the 99 percentile club. How do you feel about this?
So this is like a very, very big dream come true for me, because like I've been taking the CAT also for like I've taken it twice. So I get decently well in CAT every time, but then I don't, and I get good colleges as well, but I never reach the 99 percentile. Similarly in ISC also, it's like I got 96 and 97, but I never got a 99 percentile. Of course, in individual subjects like maths and maybe sciences, I've gotten 99, but then the entire percentage and percentile getting 99 is a big deal.
Right.
So that's like my ultimate aim. And like sir's entire agenda is like the top 1%, right? So that is one thing that was always, that resonated with me. I always felt that since sir's agenda is that, so somehow maybe I'll just get to that point after taking the top classes. And that's what happened.
I must tell you, it's a fantastic achievement. It has no comparison with 99 percentile in your 10th or 12th. It is a
Right, of course.
fantastic feat, I must tell you. It's a lot, and it just goes without saying. Sir's course is one side, and Sir's teaching is another, and you diligently planning and practicing is the thing that is a recipe for success, I would say. So, what inspired to take that plunge into the GMAT preparation? Can you just start? Where did where it all began?
So basically, I'm a BCom from St. Xavier's, Calcutta. And then I've done CA along with it. And I've done CFA L1 with that. So after I cleared my CA, I was hoping that I'll get a rank or something, but I didn't. So I could see that the rank holders usually got a very good placement. And of course, the non-rank holders also, a few of them did get very good placements. But for me, it wasn't like a leap after doing CA, because luckily I was in one of the big fours in articleship. So I got my placement post CA in that big four itself. So it wasn't a big deal for me, because it's like, even if I wouldn't have cleared, I would have gotten into it, I suppose. After 2 to 3 attempts, I mean, I would have gotten it. So it wasn't a leap for me. And I've been working in that big four itself, which is of course a big deal. But then it wasn't a leap for me. So I always felt that maybe, I wanted to explore a few other profiles apart from my profile that I've been doing. So like, for example, consulting and all. And that I felt was mostly reserved for the rank holders. So I researched the ways in which I could get into the good consulting firms, or maybe other like PE, VC, other things. So I could see that it was always the MBA bit that was lacking. So I tried for CAT as well, but then it's just that whenever I got into a few good colleges also, it was always like I felt that I can do a little bit more. If I just, if I take out a little more time from my life and give it my best, I will be able to do a little more and end up into a little better place. Because I know that I've been academically strong. So, I didn't want to settle for what I've gotten already. So that's why I took GMAT, because, CAT I've been taking. So I thought that GMAT is the last thing that I've not tried. So I just should give myself 6 months and try for GMAT and maybe ISB, and of course a few other countries also. Because why restrict myself to India alone? So that was the main reason for the entire thing.
Superb. A little extra effort and the dedication to not settle, not settle for anything less than what you think you are capable of and your dreams, right? So that's the best thing. I mean, it's the best thing to start, right? Great insight there. So now, diving deeper into, let's say, the GMAT preparation, right? So if you're creating a timeline of your GMAT preparation, what were the milestones from the very first study session to the final week leading to your exam? So
Right.
you can highlight all the challenging sections.
Yes, of course. Of course. So basically, I had was planning to take GMAT. Basically, I wanted to do MBA from last year itself, like because I had cleared CA in May 22. So I wanted 2 years work experience post CA, so that in Indian colleges also that qualifies, and my articleship that was post college plus the 2 years work experience will be 4 years. So that will be good for GMAT colleges also. So that was my plan, that I wanted to do the MBA last year 2023. So I was trying to, take out time for my GMAT or something like that. But because my work was like that, every quarter there's a major deadline. So it was like whenever I started with something, then the deadline came, and the entire work pressure, working till 3 a.m. and outstation clients and everything came in the way, and it always had some of the other effects. For example, last time also I appeared for CAT, but then something or the other came, and then I did not prepare for CAT even for a single day. I mean, I scored decently well, touch wood, but then it wasn't good enough, as I mentioned. So for me, so then finally, what I did was that in January, finally, I took the GMAT classes, because I thought that, like in school also, when we have this determined curriculum, then we study better. And for example, in CA and all those professional courses, we have to, discipline ourselves to do everything. So then, there's no push to do, basically disciplining ourselves is a little more difficult. So then I decided that once if I take my classes, I know that I'll do it. So then I started in Jan. So I was planning, as sir has always said in the introductory classes also, that 3 months are enough. So I took the classes, and I planned that, okay, 2 months I'll take for the classes, and then maybe 1 month for prep, and I'll appear. But then again, I managed to complete the classes in 3 months. So by March and April first week, I had completed the classes. But again, my deadline came, and April, May, June is like the most important deadline for us. Like I am in the assurance and audit sector. So there, the statutory audits are there in that semester. So that was like the most pressure period, April, May, June. So I got cut off from studying for entire 2 months. And then I realized that this way it cannot go even after taking classes if I'm not being able to do. So it's very difficult. So what I did was that I requested my seniors for a work from home routine. And with that, I was able to finally manage to study. So for the last 2 months, I rigorously did GMAT only, and then finally appeared for the exam. So what the initial challenges that I was facing was that, it wasn't really that maths is bad or English is bad, because as I mentioned, I've taken a lot of entrance exams earlier. For example, in my undergrad also, I had taken a lot of college exams. So I have prepared for maths, LR, English, everything. So it's like, and I had prepared for SAT as well. So I had that touch of the difficult foreign level English questions also. So none of it was very daunting. But the thing is that in these exams, if you are decently well and, smart, you will reach 96, 97 percentile. But for getting that 99 percentile, you have to put in that extra effort, because it cannot happen even if you're brilliant. If you even, I mean, it happens with a few people, but in general, it doesn't happen that you get to that bit without that extra effort. So then it was just that the extra practice. For example, for me, I've always felt that maths, even if it's not a difficult subject for me, I have to practice it every day, because if I don't have the practice, then I'll be slow. And for English and everything, it is not that I have to give an extra effort for everything, but then I cannot lose the practice again there also. So how I planned was, after I'd done the classes from Jan to March, 2 months I didn't practice, which is not an ideal thing. So I really got a little, it was difficult for me to again start in May and when I started, May and June maybe. So basically, it was difficult. So what I did was, the first so second day, I just read the entire English concept, like the RC, the octave entire part. And for CR, so has a lot of PDFs, for all the types of questions. For example, boldface has a different, method of doing boldface. And for maybe weakening and strengthen has those 3 sentences that we have to follow. And then there's the negation test, the therefore test, those things. So what I did was, I read all of the PDFs that we have for English. And then I made a separate PDF from that just for the notes. So that was my English prep. After that, I had set each and every day for CR and RC practice alternate days. Basically, sir wants us to do it every day, but I knew that if I put 3 subjects in a day, RC, CR, and quants, I wouldn't be able to do. So what I did was, 1 day CR, 1 day RC, 1 day CR, 1 day RC. So like each day, 1 hour went into that. And then the first month of my prep, I did quants the entire thing again. I'll go back, rewind a bit. So basically, this Excel that sir has shared for the classes, I had followed it to the T. Because, it's like, as I mentioned for CA also, that that we have to discipline ourselves. So when, as CA students especially, if we get something in our hand that is provided, we usually follow that, because it's like, it's a rare thing that we're getting. Why would you lose that? So it's like that. So I followed the entire Excel, even the videos, the KTW videos that sir had put in the beginning, everything in the Excel I had followed like that. Even the post work I had done that way. For example, for maths, if we had a live class, so we had a YouTube basic, then we had the live, then we had the sessions in the post work. So I had done the entire thing. There was one thing I hadn't done, was the 700 to 800 PDFs. So in my second revision with the RCCR, each day for the first month, I did the maths. So I did the YouTube, basically I saw my notes again, not the class. Then I did solve the entire live again, the sums, then the sessions, and then I did the 700 to 800. So basically all the 6 to 7 chapters that are there, and then DS, basics, I had done the entire notes again. I had solved them. And this is one thing, I don't know, this is considered as the error log or not. But what I did was that I marked the difficult sums, like the ones which I couldn't go do it in the one, like in the first go, or I tried to make an effort to, analyze the sums which I could do in the first attempt, but I knew that it is a tricky sum. So maybe this time I was in the flow of that chapter and I did it, but next time I won't be able to. So there were these two categories for each of the chapters. So then the sums got reduced to a very small amount, comparatively, at least 50%. So that was my first revision. And the second revision was quite simpler. So basically, I just went through these marked sums again, and then I practiced more of English each day. I did the sectionals each day. And at that time, I started with the DI sectionals and the DI separate topic-wise tests and everything. And of course, in my second month, like the first month was the quants. Second month, I had put a mock every alternate day. And then the English was there, RCCR, and quant second revision. So this was my second month. So every alternate day, there was mock. And the rest of the 1.5 day, I did these things, quants and RCCR alternate day practice, those kind of things. So I think it's just about practicing regularly. As I mentioned that because I lost those 2 months, I had a problem. So as Sir says, 3 months are more than sufficient. We just need to practice regularly. That is the entire thing, because most people are, GMAT is not a very difficult exam, to be honest. It's one of the most interesting and fun exams I have given till now, because the syllabus is not daunting. You don't have to push yourself to sit on the exam. English is also entertaining, and maths is also fine. I mean, maths is very, very nice if you just get the hook of it. So it's just that you have to make yourself sit every day and practice every day. And of course, as everybody says, that the content that Sir provides is sufficient if you just do that. Because if you don't do that enough, then of course a bit of everything is left, and then you don't reach that. So that is the thing.
There you go. The recipe for the success is really follow the study plan as it is mentioned by Sandeep sir. Enjoy while you're preparing. Enjoy the subject. Don't really consider it to be too overwhelming. That's a clear recipe for massive success that you have already. So now, what study material or maybe the resources, could be mocks or could be any specific KTW session also, by the way, that proved to be indispensable in your preparation, and how did you structure your entire study regimen or routine that led to maximum effectiveness? So you had like a gap, but when you were back at it, or even before that, just walk through that aspect. What particular resource stood out?
For me, in the entire curriculum, Sir's portal is like my favorite, like the absolute favorite, because the interface is also very GMAT like in most other exams when we take classes, the interface is not that similar to the real exam. So, you don't have that comfort when you sit for the final exam. So there is always a little adjustment that you have to do, which is not actually a problem. But then because Sir's interface looked even similar in the blue and white pattern, so that adjustment was also not there. The second thing is that I feel that maths, for the entire maths syllabus for Sir's entire curriculum is very difficult. Like Sir's maths is actually way more difficult than the GMAT questions come. Whenever I was, I had taken GMAT twice in a gap of 15 days, because the first time I had taken, I had gotten a 665. So I just wanted to get a little better score across the 700 and get the 99 percentile. Actually, the second time was the reason was I wanted a 99 percentile. Otherwise, it was decent for my target schools, the first school. So basically, the entire thing was that I just. So yes, the thing is that Sir's quants was so difficult when we practiced, and especially the fact that Sir put DS sums in every quant chapter, and in our final exam, it's just the problem solving sums. The DS is only in the DI part. So it was like we always practiced such a higher level. I mean, there were days I would get so saturated with the maths that Sir has provided, and then it ultimately was more than a cakewalk for us in the exam. It was like, I mean, I never focused on the fact that maybe I'm not doing correctly, so the sums are coming easy. That part I made sure I don't think in the exam. But then the entire exam, I was like, is it so easy? Am I making some mistake? But the entire exam in both the times, maths was never a problem. So I think that Sir's content for maths is very, very good. And of course, since I haven't followed any other content for any other thing, so I think that everything is sufficient because it has worked for me. And as I mentioned, the portal is amazing. The mocks, again, the mocks are very difficult in SIR's exams. And like I never crossed the 700 in SIR's exams. Although like in the GMAT MBA.com exams, I did cross 700. So initially I thought that maybe I'm not going to get there and maybe it's not working. But then I later realized that SIR's exams are tougher than the GMAT level. So that's why it's a little, I'm not reaching that score. But then in the final exam, when you get better than what you're getting, it's always a welcome surprise. So that's not an issue if you're practicing on a more difficult level. So that is there. And as you mentioned about the structure, so as I mentioned, I first followed the classes for the first 3 months, and the second 2 months, I just repeated the entire thing. And of course, like the 700, 800 PDFs for English and maths, everything was left. So I did it in my practice run. So I think that helped a lot because those were the most difficult level questions.
Right. So generally, I don't ask this question to anyone about what strategies did not work for you in your preparation. It's like a strategy overall, right? So do you recall any strategy that did not work and you had to twist and then redo?
I can say that maybe the fact that we don't have a lot of DI material initially, it's just that the mock portal is the DI practice that we have. And it's not like it's Sir's recommendation that we shouldn't do it this way and that way, but it's just that we feel that DI is a mix of maths and English. So we'll be able to deal with it. And then luckily my maths and English speeds were good. Like initially English, I was barely meeting the mark of the 45 minutes, but later on I had around 5 minutes for English section, and I even got time to recheck all my review questions in English. So I thought that I'd be on time. But then in DI, that was a very rude surprise for me because every time in DI, I couldn't meet the mark. I always left at least 2 questions. Either I guessed or I missed out. Even in the first attempt, which was 15 days earlier, I actually left 1 question in the exam, the final exam. And I think that took a hit for me because that leaving 1 question is not supposed to be the right approach. Like I thought that making consecutive mistakes would be a worse penalty. So I left that one last question. And now I realize in retrospect that I shouldn't have left it. Maybe the first time around I would have scored better. So only the DI section was that I hadn't practiced initially. So I wasn't meeting the timeline. It wasn't about the accuracy per se, but it was only about the timing. I always missed 2 to 3 questions. In very difficult mocks, I even left 5 questions. I mean, I guessed it in the end, but then I couldn't complete it. So that is one thing that I need that I think that once people, after they've done the classes and they start with their practice, they shouldn't leave out the DI section for the last because it's not difficult and there is no accuracy problem as such. It's only the timing problem. Even if you're good in quants or English, either way, DI is the most daunting time-wise.
Super. So on to your exam experience, would you be able to just share what was working for you on that day? What did not work for you in terms of pacing? Were you taken by surprise with any of the questions? You already mentioned it was more than a cakewalk, but just walk through each of the section and the order that you chose, and why did you choose that order?
Right. So I always took the order English, DI, and maths. And that is a fix for me because in Indian colleges, Indian exams like CAT, this is the fixed pattern. So I've been taking this and I didn't want to experiment with it because I personally feel that English should be the first area. I've heard a lot of people doing quants first, and I second guessed my approach also. And I even this is one of the only emails I had sent to Sir in which I had asked that do you all suggest that any other pattern is better for all the other students? And they mentioned that you shouldn't experiment in the last minute. And they suggested one particular pattern that if you want to try it on one mock. But then I did not have the energy to try that even on one mock because I feel that English is the only section in which your brain should be absolutely open. Like you cannot be a bit saturated also, because interpretation is there in English only, right? In Quants and DI, it's
Always.
simpler. So in English, I always do first. And since I felt that GMAT Quants is good and it's decent, as I said, I enjoyed it. So I wanted to put it in the last. And as it is, I was a little scared with DI and everything. I didn't want to saturate myself in the end because I wasn't meeting the timeline anyway. So I didn't want to, have that bad taste after the exam that my last section didn't work well. So I put DI in the between. So I always did verbal, DI, and then quants. And I think it worked for me both times. Like even in the first time when I got a 665, no, I don't think that the order was a problem.
Yeah.
And here yes, tell me.
And the entire questions, how did you find the
Oh,
pacing
yes.
in the
Yes.
exam? Yeah.
Yes. So the maths, as I mentioned, it was too easy
Right.
both the times. I mean, it's not like it won't get difficult at all, but I don't think people will find it not tackleable. For example, in my final one, which I scored the 100 percentile, I had a few questions, even the good, interesting chapters like time and work, which most people, professionals especially, are good at, because it's arithmetic. It's the basic, means we don't even forget it from our class 10 and 12. For example, coordinate geometry and maybe PNC also, we tend to forget if we don't practice. But arithmetic, I don't think people forget that. So time and work and all, we managed to do it. But there was one sum in my particular exam that was quite difficult, and I took around 6 minutes to do it. But then, because all the other chapters you have practiced well and the sums are easy, so even if you take 6 minutes on one sum or even two sums, you somehow manage to tackle those sums. And in the end, it just gets a little more difficult than you find it comfortable, but then it's the last and the second last sum, so you don't get daunted, and then it gets managed. So maths, it was very easy for me. I mean, it was better than expected. For DI, it was the same, I think. I mean, it might have been a little shorter, the MSR, but I don't think that it helped that much. But of course, since I had been practicing that level only, it didn't have a problem, and I completed my exam on the final day, so it was a relief for me. And for English, I think SIR's level is difficult, but I was expecting that it'll be a little more easier. But GMAT was also, some CRs were easy and you got the answer on the first chance. Some were difficult. But I have been hearing that sir mentioned that most people got very long RCs. I was very lucky both times that my RCs weren't long. Sir's RCs are way longer. So whenever I saw those RCs, I was like, 2-3 paragraphs, I will get them only. There's no reason why I won't get them.
Right.
So the RCs were comparatively smaller, and both the times it was that the first 3 RCs were 3 to 4. Even if those were 4 paragraphs, those were very small. I didn't even have to scroll the sheet. And the last RC was a little difficult, longer both the times. But then it was easier than Sir's mocks. So it wasn't a very rude surprise. It was 90% easier than Sir's. Basically 10% gap. But then, of course, we had practiced that level only. So that shouldn't have been a problem.
Sure enough. I really love the entire analogy that you said. You wanted to keep the best tasting in the end, and you see that 100 percentile right on the exam, which is the quant. Really, really wonderful tactics, I would say. Now, when you're looking back on in the entire preparation, what are the common and the classic do's and don'ts based on your journey that you wish someone had shared just beforehand or before you gave the exam or in the preparation mode itself? What
so there was just one to do that I think is, which I mentioned, that DI shouldn't be neglected for the end, because I suffered in my mocks because I wasn't being able to complete. I'm not even sure if practice makes it better. But of course, it does make it better, because I couldn't feel the difference, because till the last day, my mock, I was missing 2 questions in DI. But then on the final day, if I did it, so that's what I want, right? So maybe in GMAT, ultimately, if you've been practicing, you get the reward in the final exam. I don't know how it works. Maybe I got lucky. I don't know. But I think that DI shouldn't be neglected to the end. And apart from that, these are not to-dos. These are just normal things. I mean, this is not something that people need to take away per se. But for example, in DS, initially everybody makes a lot of mistakes in data sufficiency because we keep falling in traps. Or even in English, both RC and CR, we keep making mistakes because those are tricky. GMAT questions are tricky. So it's just that it's not a to-do here again. But the thing is that we shouldn't get daunted, I feel, because if you practice, you don't need to do anything else. Everything else gets taken care of, I personally feel. Because for both my exams, it wasn't that I was suffering because of accuracy per se. It was just that one mistake here, one mistake there, that day something went wrong. So those mistakes happened. So I think that so there's one diagram that sir shows a lot. There's a bar in which it's written, there's like a green and blue part. So it was like most people spend this much time worrying and this much time studying, but it should be the entire thing should be green. So
Right.
that thing, I had attended one of sir's sessions in the beginning, I think Race to 100 Days, R1 or something. That time I didn't focus on that. But in my second exam, like after between both the attempts, I saw one more of sir's videos. I think the one on Independence Day. That in that again, sir had used the same motivations. There was nothing new. Instead, sir had mentioned in the last half an hour that people who don't want motivation, don't need that, you can leave that. But actually, since I was doing it for the second time, I needed motivation of any sort. So I attended that thing again. And so I think that was the main difference that I had in both the attempts, that I stopped worrying about my results. Because I mean, it's not a to-do, nobody can do anything about the worrying bit. But I just feel that, as I mentioned, I don't keep thinking that maybe my answers were wrong, so I'm getting easier questions. I never analyze that. And we're lucky that we don't get mocks in that fashion. I mean, most people might be complaining that if we got adaptive mocks, it would have helped us more. But I personally feel that it's good for me that I didn't have adaptive mocks. So in mocks, I couldn't worry about the fact that it is getting adapted. So then I didn't worry on the final exam also. And I feel that, of course, a few people work better under pressure, but there's an optimum. After that, pressure can never help us. So
Right.
that particular diagram, I always kept motivating myself with that. That even if I worry, it won't help me. It didn't help me the first time around. It didn't help me in my CA or any other thing. So I just work, because the worrying part I can do after the results also. So
Right.
that is the only. I mean, as you mentioned that the enjoying part and the not worrying part is, I think, the privilege only a few exams like GMAT offer us, because in CA we cannot do that, right? Because there are 8 subjects and there are so many permutations by which you can fail.
Right.
And the best thing about GMAT is, even if you don't get your percentile, you'll not fail, right? So that is a very good cushion that we can always feel happy about. And I mean, in retrospect, I am saying such positive things. There were very bad days that I have gone through. And I'm lucky that I have my sister with me in the journey. So it's like always, if any one of you, if you have someone who's doing with you, it's always helpful. You can cry with someone. You can see that someone else is going through the entire thing. And I try to listen to these videos that sir records, and maybe someone might see my videos and try to follow these. And we always hope that that helps someone out. But
Right.
the motivation that someone gets when you have someone who's doing with you, even maybe someone who's taking the exam in a month, they will think that, okay, basically I'm in the same period as them. No, I'm
Right.
giving the exam just 1 month apart from them, but that wouldn't help as much as someone who is giving the exam with you. So
Right.
I think that everybody if someone gets a buddy or someone who's given the exam very closely, that helps a lot more. I mean, this is not the purpose of this video, I know,
But no,
but that is
that's something that I really wanted to touch base on right in the next question, because we're speaking of motivation, and the support system is, see, one of the things that Sandeep sir does as your mentor is that he will really push you wherever you're stuck, whatever position. That's why all these, reconnecting back. What's the otherwise purpose of, him talking to his joint students? He's really pushing to the finish line. That was
right.
one. Second factor, I loved the fact that you enjoy and you really take that in a right spirit. You don't find it daunting, is what you said. Because that's one of the things that I keep telling a lot of students who are stuck. Just enjoy the entire process, come prepared, do whatever is asked of you, and then you'll enjoy the process rather than catching up, catching up.
And honestly, as you mentioned, it's as I mentioned, it's in retrospect that I'm telling that you don't need to worry and all, because I did worry, especially in my first time. But then, as I mentioned, the second time I made that little change, and maybe that helped down the line, because I am not someone who's not worried in exams. I always worry about exams, but
Sometimes you have
GMAT offers that luxury.
sometimes you have to go through it to then
Exactly.
say, well, because
Exactly.
it's each other's experience. But I think if you do get it right, which is not to worry too much, and really then you get it right in the first time itself.
Right.
And the very important thing that you touch base is to have that support system. Sometimes this entire journey is so lonely, and you're
Exactly.
so close to the mark, but somehow that gap is there, and you need to really hold on to something, hold on to
Right.
someone to just have that final leap, right? Amazing story, Ria. Really, so many great insights, I would say. Is there any final thoughts that you have that you would like to share to maybe aspiring students or to even Sandeep sir, a message to him? Anything that you would like to?
Right. So there are a few things that I'll repeat again. One of the things that I mentioned was that I wasn't enjoying it the first time around. But it's just that if we enjoy it gets a little better because GMAT is one of the few exams that we can enjoy. The second thing is that I have been lucky in my, I cannot give the entire credit to my hard work because I am staying with my parents. So, if I am very upset, I can go to them. There are a lot of people who are working, and I luckily got work from home also in the last 1 month, 2 months, because my seniors were kind to me. And then I have my sister who's giving the exam along with me. So I feel that if we have these luxuries, we should tap onto those things. For example, if anyone, it's possible for them to take a month or two and come back to their home instead of work wherever they're working. And they shouldn't second guess that thing that taking that down area is like a sign of weakness, because when you get what you get, that is what matters in the end. And 2 months, 3 months, uh, taking those luxuries is not a bad thing, I personally feel. And of course, there are a lot of people who don't get that luxury because they cannot get a work from home from their office. They'll have to either leave it or those kind of things. So of course, I really respect those people who manage GMAT in 2 months and 1 month and those things. But I feel that either way we can just stay calm in any exam. That part is always easier if you're not very daunted by the exam. And of course, I have to say a huge thanks to Sandeep sir, because he, apart from the entire curriculum, which is sufficient. There's no need for anything else apart from the curriculum and the classes and everything. And as I mentioned, that if we have a backing, a pushing that this is the curriculum we need to follow, then why wouldn't you follow it if you paid for it, right? And of course, the motivation. I don't know a lot of people don't get time for those motivation classes as well. But I think anything of that sort is always useful because these are not tangible. These are the intangibles that you don't realize, but then those affect you. So that is all that I want to say. And I would like to speak to Sandeep sir someday and get a few insights from him about my future journey. And I'll be more than happy if someone connects with me for any queries regarding GMAT, because GMAT is a fairly easy to motivate exam. So you can give a few tips and it helps people in the long run.
So wonderful. Just, thank you for being so candid and giving so many conversations. I mean, the tips that should really help anybody who may be watching, your experience. Wonderful. And I have to tell you that, thank you for trusting Sandeep sir and his process through your journey. We are extremely grateful that this worked out for you. It only tells that, whatever he's teaching is valid, right? And most importantly, I would really wish the best for the biggest admit, because you do have a great set of background, and now you have the score that could potentially get you to any school of your choice, right? You're not settling in, and I hope you keep up that spirit of not settling and get to the very best. There's so much more that you could do, and there's so much more the MBA would really offer you, and what you then derive after that, that's a big chapter altogether. And I really wish you the best, and we'll stay connected. Hopefully, I would really love to see the journey that you would like to take. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. And one more thing I would mention here, that the thing is that you mentioned that I trusted Sir with the journey. But the thing is, Sir is so famous in this GMAT space that honestly, I've never heard any other teacher who's famous for GMAT. I mean, maybe one friend takes a GMAT from a particular institute or something like that, but I've never heard anything else apart from top 1% for GMAT. So it's like it wasn't a brainer for me that which classes should I take. It was just that should I take classes or not. And then when I pushed myself that it will make me disciplined, then it was always top 1% only for me. So there was not an option of trusting anyone else with this. And I'm really fortunate that it worked out all in the end. And thank you so much to the entire team. And of course, Sandeep.
Fantastic. It is definitely very heartwarming, I would say, really to see this kind of a success from a student. And we just wish from, again, the bottom of the heart that you get the best right there. And we'll definitely keep connected to see that happening. Okay.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you so much
for joining me this evening. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Bye.